is up, everyone? It's been a while since we've uploaded. A lot has changed. I got a haircut. We moved. We had kids. I got glasses. Anyways, we're not talking about that today. Today, I'm doing a tier ranking of all the books that I've read or did not finish since the last book that I reviewed on the channel, which was Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. Great book. One of my favorite books I've ever read. There's a review for that. You can go check that out. But today, we are going to talk about 53 books that I have touched since then. And we're starting off hot with a DNF and the book none other than Dune by Frank Herbert. There's 53 books here. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, so I won't be saying too much on many of these books. But Dune, to some degree, I think I was an immature reader and I tried to read it because of hype. I think if I read it now with more books and more sci-fi experience under my belt, then maybe I would enjoy it more. But I just don't think the story's for me. Next, we're going to get the DNFs out of the way. Six Crimson Cranes. It's about a girl and her family. All of her brothers get turned into cranes, and I don't remember why. Yeah, there's a lot I don't remember about this one. There's going to be a lot I don't remember about a lot of these books. I do remember getting about almost halfway through, because me and Shawnee were reading it with some friends of ours, getting almost halfway through and talking with her about it and just basically saying, I think I need to call it with this book. I don't think it's for me. The next DNF I'll talk about is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's a super short book. I should have been able to just power through it. But man, as short as the book was and the amount of pages I read and there wasn't really anything happening, I just got fed up and called it. Same thing with this next DNF, The Alchemist. I know it's got quite a bit of hype for a bunch of reasons, or maybe not. Well, I don't know what the reasons are because I didn't finish it. But for me, it was a little too... It felt new agey. I don't know if that's the right term to use, and I don't know that people would agree with me. Most of these DNFs are going to be, it wasn't for me. This next one is not that, because this next one was just bad. The Children of Red Peak. Here's what annoyed me so much. The author knows a little bit about live production, live music, live sound, and he really wants the reader to know that. With the description of one of the characters is in a band, and he's describing from that character's point of view the smell of the SM58, which is a model of a microphone, the hiss of the amplifier behind him. And there was just like a lot of description like that for paragraphs at a time, and I could not stand it. This book was intriguing because it's about a group of kids that, if memory serves, it's about a group of kids that we now follow them as adults. But when they were kids, they escaped a cult, or the cult that they were in, there was a mass suicide type situation. Can I say that? They left the cult. We're now following them as adults, and then things come up. That was the big reason that I wanted to read it, and I just couldn't get past that writing. It was just killing me. Similarly, in this last DNF, it's not popping up on the image, but this is called Listen on Music, Sound, and Us by Michael Faber, I think is his name. And the intention for me to read this was to explore, I'm really passionate about music. I wanted to explore the psychology behind why I like the music that I like. I'm a big fan of metal, hardcore, metalcore, stuff like that, but also so many other genres of music. The only music that I don't really listen to is like EDM or jazz with vocals. I don't really like vocals in my jazz music, but I love instrumental jazz. I wanted to explore what it is about my psyche that enjoys that type of music, and did not get that with this. I didn't make it that far. The author meanders a lot. He used a lot of words to not say much. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So now we're going to get into all the books that I did finish. And these, I believe, are in chronological order. So let's start with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I've super slowly been re-listening to the Harry Potter books. And now, well, I put that on pause waiting for all of the full cast recordings to be released. So now that they are all released, I'll pick that back up. Goblet of Fire is, for me, an A tier. It's not my, well, some days it's my favorite. Some days Order of the Phoenix is my favorite. And they're interchangeable. I don't feel like I need to say much about what Harry Potter is about, so let's just keep it moving. The next one was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm going to put this in C tier only because I remember very few details about this. There's another book in this series that comes later in this list that I remember less about. And what I've heard about this series is once you get to book 3, that's when it really becomes a book series. That's when it becomes legitimate. And one day I will pick this series back up, but there are a lot of things that I would prioritize over this for sure. Next up was Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. I'm going to put this above Goblet of Fire. Following Darrow again, following the events of Red Rising, the first book. If you're familiar with Red Rising, if you read Red Rising, or if you've been on BookTube at all, you probably know enough that Pierce Brown, especially in the first 3 books, puts the pedal down and doesn't really let up. And that makes my monkey reader brain very happy. I don't do well with slow burns or no plot, just vibes. Anyways, Golden Sun, great book. The Red Rising, great series. We'll talk more about those books later. Okay, next one up is This Is What It Sounds Like. And I forget the author's name. I'm going to put this in B tier. Susan Rogers. And there's a co-author here. I can't read his name on the image. This is another one of those books that I wanted to read that was exploring the psychology behind music. And this one breaks it down into, it kind of makes it like a personality test, which I'm a big fan of. All the different personality tests that are out there, I find them very interesting. They break it down into like 7 parameters of music, and I won't remember what all of them are now in this moment, but some of them are rhythm and melody and lyrics and authenticity, things like that. Each music listener has a preference with each one of those parameters. And if you were able to chart it out, that would become like your listener profile. And then if you were to find music that falls within those parameters, then you would find more music that you like, or something like that. Next up, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This one I'm torn on. It's like I said before, I don't do well with slow burn. Books that are super, super character first. I really prefer books with fast-moving plot. That's changed over time, slowly. I think it will continue to change. I want to get back into this series. I'm going to say bottom of B tier. Joe Abercrombie is a great author. His prose is great. The scenes that he's able to create are entertaining, not action-packed, except for some of the scenes with Logan Ninefingers. Love that guy. Super excited to see more of him. Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. This is our first S tier book. I love this book so dearly. You'll probably know what this is about. It's a story about a boy growing up on an island that is secluded from the rest of the world, and it is then invaded. And it's the story of him and his mom and his dad, and there's action there, but there's also M.L. Wang ties in the relationships between the 3 and their extended family and the rest of those on the island. The world building is great. The magic system is awesome. The action was incredible. I love Masaki. You need to read Sword of Kaigen if you haven't yet. Okay, next up, Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I think that's how you say his name. I want to put it bottom of A tier. This is a horror book about a little boy. Well, your main character is a young girl, teenage, young 20s maybe, and she takes a babysitting job or nannying, something of that nature, to where she ends up living in this family's backyard in like a guest house / shed type of situation. This little boy draws creative pictures, and they begin to depict some disturbing imagery, and things pick up. And I thought it was a great horror thriller. And if I could read it again for the first time, I definitely would. Next up, The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'll be honest, not my favorite Riley Sager. I'm going to put this one top of C. This one is about, similar to Hidden Pictures, a girl who gets a caretaking job of a woman that lives at like a top of a hill in this giant house. And it's called The Only One Left because that woman was the only one left in a horrifying murder of her entire family all in one night, and she's the only one left. And so the mystery is this caretaker, the protagonist that's taking care of the lady, the titular only one left, is just trying to do her job, but then eventually gets curious with the mystery of it all and begins to uncover things. And not my favorite Riley Sager, but I've definitely read worse. Speaking of, this is going to catch some flack. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I have been wanting to read this book since high school. For a senior project at the end of the year in my English class, each student got to pick a book from a list of books to do their project on. I picked Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, and my best friend picked The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and he was telling me a little bit about it. I knew the premise, and it really interested me because one of my favorite video games at the time was The Last of Us, and this is, if you're going to think of a book that gives The Last of Us vibes, The Road is top of that list. If you know of any others, put them down in the comments because I would love to read those, because I love The Last of Us with a passion, and I would love to read a good book with that feeling. The Road didn't give me what I was looking for. His writing is hard to read. I mean, I need quotation marks. I need punctuation. I need this to be easy. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to work the muscles, if you will, of becoming a better reader. I'm reading more difficult content, and maybe I jumped the gun with The Road. I know there's a lot of acclaim for this book, and I think it went over my head. I missed it. Whatever there is there, it wasn't for me. The best part was the imagery, the world building, the idea of like this world covered in ashes, this post-apocalyptic world of this father and son just trying to go from one place to the next, and the little tiny instances of conflict that happen that weren't super captivating. I know a lot of people say that he's got great prose. He's a good writer. Sure, I guess. This is a common theme for me that will show up later. A lot of these classics, I don't understand why they're considered classics, and I think this would fall into that boat. Next up, a Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Now, I said that I don't really do well with no plot, just vibes, but I think I needed a palate cleanser, and this book is about that thick, and I wanted to give it a shot. I've heard great things about it, so I took a chance, and I really did enjoy it. I don't know that maybe I did enjoy it more than The Blade itself, which is some people I know is blasphemy, but here we're following a tea monk. No. Yes. Our protagonist just wants to have her tea cart and live her life and chill out. And then there's if I remember, there's a robot that comes along, and this isn't exactly what happens, but wants to be their best friend and wants to. That's not true. That's not what the book is at all. Memory is failing me here. I know that there's a tea cart, and relational conflict between this monk that wants to do the tea cart and a robot. Okay, next up, we have The Will of the Many by James Islington. I'm going to put it right here under Goblet of Fire. I really liked The Will of the Many. There's a scene that I can still picture so vividly, and I don't think I'll ever forget that scene. I forgot most of everything else about this book, but I do remember that scene and how the book made me feel. Alrighty, next, Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. I finished this book at the beginning of 2025, and let's see, I'm going to put it there for now while I talk about it. This follows a fallen knight and a young girl who, the fallen knight, his name's Thomas, rescues this girl. Her name is Delphine, and they are going on a journey to, I believe, find the Pope. I think is what they're doing. They need to go from one place to the next. It's set in France during the Black Plague, and how do I say? There's angels and demons fighting in the air. Satan and his army of demons is taking over the planet, and angels are trying to fight back. Things look pretty bleak, and the journey that these guys go on is remarkable. The character arc that Thomas goes through is remarkable. I think I'm going to put this right there above The Will of the Many. Now, I'll be honest, when I finished this book, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. There's a slight bit of recency bias here because a friend of mine at work just recently finished this, like literally 2 days ago. He was talking with me about it, and it resurfaced a lot of thoughts that I had about the book and brought a lot of stuff that kind of fell through back up to the surface as well. And he pointed out quite a few things that I really didn't pick up on. And because of that, I think that discussion with him helped push this up in the ranking. Currently online, I think Between Two Fires is having a little bit of resurgence. I think a lot more people are reading it. It's getting talked about more, and I would highly recommend it. I think it's a great one. Next up, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This is going to go top of B tier. That feels wrong. Bottom of A. Now, I have not physically read any Dungeon Crawler Carl book. I'm currently listening to the third one because that's the way that a lot of people say that you should consume the book, just because of the audiobook narration. Jeff Hayes is super talented, and so many people have talked about him. I don't feel like I need to add to that. But Dungeon Crawler Carl was entertaining. I've never read anything like I've never read any lit RPG, and this being my first, I think is a pretty easy entry point. Now, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the tier ranking that we're doing, but I don't know how far I'm going to make it into the series. I'm listening to the third one right now, and it's losing its luster. I'll say that. It's losing the sauce. Next up, we have Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. And I've been weary of this moment of talking about this book online because I feel like people were so divided on this one, understandably so. I'm in the camp of disappointed, I think, to put it lightly. I'm going to put it above The Road. And actually, you know what? I'm going to move The Road down to D tier. Don't crucify me. And it was better than Throne of Glass too. I would rather read Wind and Truth. Wind and Truth? I can't even remember the name of the book. I would rather read Wind and Truth than Throne of Glass again. And that is why I moved it above. But the conclusion of the first arc of the Stormlight Archive, the first 3 books of the Stormlight Archive are some of my favorite books ever written. I love Kaladin. I love Bridge 4. Found family is my favorite trope. And Brandon Sanderson did that so well with Bridge 4 specifically. And the plot beats or the story beats in 1 through 3 were perfect. That's a stretch. They weren't perfect, but they were dang near close. And then Rhythm of War book 4 in this series was a blur. I don't remember anything from Rhythm of War except for like some science experiments that Navani does. That's about it. And then there are a couple of things that I love about Wind and Truth. Out of all of the cast of characters, there are 2 that I am happy with where they end up. There was plenty of action, but throughout the 1,300 pages that this book is, I think it's 1,300 pages. I read it digitally, so I don't know. I read the ebook. I haven't bought this a physical copy yet because I just can't bring myself to do it because I was so disappointed. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to talk about it. Never mind. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about divulging information, but I won't. I think that if you are looking for an epic of epic fantasy stories with a super unique magic system and world with a diverse cast of characters, and you're not afraid of how should I say it? I want to say like chaff, like stuff that you can trim off. If you're not afraid of things that you feel like could be cut out of the book, then I would definitely recommend 1 through 3. All that being said, with where the Stormlight Archive ended, or the first arc ended, I do plan on picking up at least the 6th book, the first book of Arc 2. But for now, I think me and Brandon Sanderson are on a break. Next up, The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, I think, is the author. Shawnee and I listened to this in the car on a road trip in one day, in a 5-hour stretch, and I think I liked it more than The Only One Left. I don't remember much about it. I remember it being like a fun, quick thriller with a couple of unpredictable twists. This is a series, but I did not enjoy this one enough to continue. But if you're looking for a quick, fun thriller mystery vibe, I think there's a little bit of magic in here too, if I remember correctly. Or is it just like super gifted kids? That's almost like borderline magic. I don't remember. This was at the beginning of 25. So it's been over a year and a half for this one. And that's about all I can remember. Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. This is our next S tier. I loved this book so much. I'll be honest, I read this only so I can watch the movie. One, it's a crazy story that actually happened. It's crazy that it actually happened. And I think David Grann does a great job of bringing it to the page. It's a story about the Osage people in Oklahoma that just so happen to live on land, to live on top of oil. The white man comes and takes over and says, hey, we're going to take care of your money for you. A lot of these Osage people start to pass away from various ailments. This is where I forget the name of the FBI agent, but this is like one of the first FBI things that happen. The subtitle is The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI. Investigations happen, and people are found guilty, and it's just a great story. Again, so crazy that it actually happened. It baffles me. Next one is Morning Star by Pierce Brown, wrapping up the first trilogy of Red Rising. I'm going to put this one above Golden Sun. This was a more action-packed, more exciting events and combat and space battle and some twists that I did not expect, that some people thought were I've seen some people talk about this online and say that it was so predictable. They saw it from a mile away, and they make me feel ignorant because I did not. And I really enjoyed this book. And it's okay that they didn't. It's okay that I did. And I'll be honest, don't remember much about this one. Next one, Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I like this one more than the only one left. I think I'm going to put it bottom of B tier. This one is about a girl that is trying to survive the night. I think she hitchhikes or she has a breakdown and gets a ride. Anyways, she ends up in a stranger's car and she attempts to survive the night. Even though it might feel like my description is not doing justice, which it's not. I did enjoy this one. I do remember that at least. And I think if you're into thrillers or if you're a fan of Riley Sager and you haven't read this one yet, I would recommend it for sure. Next up, we have Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. And I think I'm going to put this one at top of B tier. I read this one because, I've been wanting to read the Bill Hodges trilogy, which this is the first book of, because I read The Outsider a long time ago, and I watched the show on HBO, and I was fascinated by Holly Gibney. I wanted to read more of her, and this is the first place that she shows up. And I wanted to go through her story in the King universe. She now has her own book. She's shown up in a couple of short stories. So that being said, I gave this one a shot. I started the trilogy, and I'm not sure that I will continue. So the main character, Bill Hodges, is a retired law officer of some sort. I don't remember if it's SWAT or police or sheriff or FBI or whatever. And there is at the very beginning of the book, there's a line of people lined outside the, is it like an unemployment office or a job center of some sort? They're looking for work, and it's super early in the morning. It's cold outside. It's still dark, and people are lined up outside of this building, and a car, a Mercedes, rolls through the crowd, killing and injuring basically everyone. And then Bill Hodges gets some sort of anonymous letter or note show up at his house, basically taunting him because that happened like way in the past. And this was like, I think if I remember correctly, this is like the case he couldn't crack or the case that was never solved. Overall, I enjoyed the book. It didn't pull me in as much as I needed it to for me to continue the series because there's just too many other things to read. I needed a little more out of it. And that's really all I have to say about it for now. Next is Anji Kills a King by Evan Leikam. Let's see, where do I want to put this one? I think I'm going to put it right there behind DCC. I think it was a great debut. I haven't read many debuts that I know of. I think the plot it's interesting. It's called Anji Kills a King, and that happens. The killing of the king happens before this book even starts. That's cool. I haven't read many things like that. Before getting into it, I thought that it was going to be the story of Anji killing the king, but the king's already dead. The story is somebody in this band. I forget what the band is called. Yeah, there's this group of not mercenaries, I guess mercenaries, called the Menagerie, of which this character that we know as the Hawk is a part of. And the Hawk is going to escort Anji to her execution. Have I not been in focus this whole time? Dang, that sucks. Okay, I might have been out of focus there. Whoops. The next book that I read, I listened to this one actually completely. I didn't read any of it. Was The Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, the second book in Throne of Glass series. I don't remember anything about this book, not a single thing. So I'm not going to talk about it. Next up, we have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I thought this was good. This was a really, really good book. I do think that people are overhyping it. That feels like a good spot. Okay, Project Hail Mary. What can I say about that has not been said? Probably nothing. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I liked the relationships is that a spoiler? People have probably seen the movie by now. I don't know what's a spoiler and what's not. Do people care about spoilers? I do. Anyways, Project Summoner was a great book. If you haven't read it yet, read it. All right. This is Berserk, the manga, specifically volume 3. I don't remember much about it, but I know that I enjoyed it enough to continue it. So I'm going to put it right here. I remember more about Berserk volume 4, which I read quite a bit later. And I'm going to put that up here above Anji Kills a King. I skipped ahead a bunch, but since I'm on Berserk, I figured I would talk about it. I want to continue this series so much, but I'm reading the deluxe versions because I don't want to have all the little volumes, and I just don't have the shelf space for that. So I figured I would get more story for my book. That doesn't make sense. It makes more sense for me to buy the deluxe versions and read those. I could read them digitally, but then I'm buying them digitally and the deluxe versions, and I just really like a physical book in my hand. So they are right there. There's a stack of them. Well, 2 of them. Okay, Berserk is following a character named Guts, who joins a band of the Hawk. It's a pretty brutal manga. I don't need to go into detail. Empire of Silence, the first book in the Sun Eater series. This series was basically my entire life for the second half of 2025, trying to catch up so that I can read the finale when it released. I was not able to do so. But Empire of Silence, I'm going to put above Mr. Mercedes. And spoiler alert, this will be the lowest rated Sun Eater book. Hadrian Marlowe, it's not a spoiler. He destroyed a sun and therefore an entire solar system with it. He's recounting these events to the reader, just telling his story essentially. The first book is pretty slow compared to really slow compared to the other ones. The other ones pick up exponentially. And I'm so excited to get back into this one. I just haven't been in a sci-fi fantasy mood. I will get back to this. But yeah, Empire of Silence is going to go there. Shogun by James Clavell. I probably liked it more than The Road, but I did not enjoy this book overall. A lot of people I see online say that this book is so good, one of the best books I've ever read, highly recommended, blah, blah, blah. Again, this might be one of those things that maybe I'm just not built for it. Maybe just everyone else is built different. Like this book started like an existential crisis for me when I finished it and felt the way that I did, comparing that to what I see other people feeling about this book specifically, because everyone else sings its praises from the rooftops and I didn't see it. I still don't see it. I think James Clavell's a fine writer. I think he did tension pretty well. But as far as the narrative and the brilliance of that, if there's any brilliance, it went over my head. If there's any brilliance in the character, it went over my head. Next up, Howling Dark, the continuation of Sun Eater. I'm going to put it right there. This is the continuation of Sun Eater. We meet a pretty important character. I believe that's him on the cover. Don't remember a lot of specifics about this one. There's some pretty cool, it's almost like magic system, but it's more of like a science thing that our protagonist discovers he can do. And I think that's in this book that happens. Maybe it happens at the end of book 1. One counterpoint to it is that it's basically exploitation of plot armor. Howling Dark's a great book. Sun Eater's a great series. You'll hear that again and again from me. Okay, next up is volumes 4, 5, and 6 from Full Metal Alchemist. This is a 3-in-1. I probably read this just to get a little bit of a palate cleanse between Howling Dark and Demon in White, because I really struggle with going book to book in the same series. Like I kind of get bored of it, so I was trying to get a little bit of a quick hit of something else, get a breather, if you will. And I want to continue the series. I say that a lot, but there's just a lot of so many other things to read. But It will happen. And I think you should read it too. Next up, Demon in White. I'm going to put this right there. And right after Demon in White was Kingdom of Death. I'm going to put that above Morningstar, actually. Yeah, this is where I am up until this point in Sun Eater. This is where the series gets bleak. The situation for our main characters is not looking good in this point in the story. Personally, I love that, which we'll talk more about later in a different series. I'm gonna keep going. Sun Eater is great. I'm gonna keep reading it. But next was Monster. I'm sorry, I don't remember the author. I'm gonna put it. I know that I enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it here. I want to continue this series. I have not continued this series because I'm very particular with books that I buy. I'm not a huge fan of buying books online, and I'm so hell-bent on reading physical books that it takes a lot for me to buy a ebook because I just so much prefer a physical book. And the reason I haven't bought more of this manga is because I can't find it in stores. And I just kind of like wait until I happen upon it. And one day when it's the last thing that I have to read, I will, which it will never happen, I will end up buying those online. I will inevitably get to a place where this is all I can think about, and I'll end up buying the next one, probably digitally because it'd be cheaper, and just bite the bullet. Next is Carl's Doomsday Scenario, and I think I liked this more than the first one. But man, the books are entertaining. The books are entertaining. So far, it hasn't grabbed me like it's grabbing everyone else. That sounds inappropriate. I think I'm doubting my ranking because I feel like people would expect, and I feel like I would expect myself based on other people's hype that it would be up here or maybe even S tier. But if I'm honest with myself, it might even be lower than this. I think Berserk should be above DCC. But when I need an audiobook to listen to, Jeff Hayes is who I'm going to listen to. I don't know that I'm not confident. I keep degrading. I'm not confident I'm going to finish this series. We'll see. Next up, Save Our Souls by, I don't remember the author's name, but that's okay because I don't care. This book was not great. It's about a family that goes on a whaling trip in a boat and shipwrecks on an island. And when they get on the island, they find out there's someone that's already been shipwrecked there. And that's kind of where my interest stopped after reading this book. That's where my interest stops. I think it was particularly the way the book was laid out. So it's based on a real story. This is a nonfiction, which I'm trying to read more of. And I think the part that I found annoying, it's a super small book. And the actual meat of the story could have been half of what the book was. So much of the book was, okay, so there's this family on the island, right? There's this family on this island. There was this one day where a ship left this Navy base and was going to that island or was going to sail by that island, but there was a storm and they got turned back and they couldn't go to that island. There were like 3 or 4 or 5 instances of something like that. And it kind of, that took me out. I was not a fan of that. So Save Our Souls by, I think it's Matthew something. If you have a lot of time in your hands and you can kill a 200-page book in a day, go for it. If you can find it at your library, I wouldn't say buy this. Don't do that. Next up, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is another one that gets a lot of hype, is highly praised. One of my favorite booktubers' favorite series, actually multiple of my favorite booktubers' favorite series, and it was not for me. I will say I liked it probably more than Throne of Glass, less than Wind and Truth. Yeah, I think this is a me problem. I think this one's a me problem. I struggle with keeping my attention to the page and keeping my brain engaged with the book. And maybe that's saying something about the book, but I think it's a me problem because I will just keep reading and not stop and go back at times because I just want to finish the book. or say that I did. I will get in that headspace sometimes. And I know that's not good for a reader to do that, but the first step of fixing the problem is admitting you have a problem, right? So maybe this would, maybe a reread would do this better justice, but I'm not going to reread it. I think this book has been talked about online enough. I don't need to go into it. The Strength of the Few by James Islington, the sequel to The Will of the Many. Man, was I disappointed by this one. I'm going to put it there. This was not for me. When we look at how much I liked The Will of the Many, if you compare that to my experience in The Strength of the Few, they're so diametrically opposed. Could not be more different. I struggled so hard to The Strength of the Few. I don't feel like the book earned its length. So it does have some things going for it. There are 3 different characters that we're following, and I really only enjoyed one of them, one of the 3 characters' stories. They're kind of like all separate plots. I'm trying to not spoil book 1. Anyways, I need to keep this shorter. Strength of the Few, I did not enjoy. Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, I enjoyed even less. I'll say overall I enjoyed it more than Shogun, but the reasons I liked it were undone by the last 50 pages. It was a vampire story, and I loved the descriptions are gruesome. I listened to this a little bit. I had to go out of town for work, and on the way back into town, I was listening to some of this, and I remember making like a grotesque face or a face in reaction to a grotesque feeling that I was having in response to the book. I think that's how you say that. It's gross. It's just gross. And I loved the gross. Next up, Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This one, I'll be honest, I don't remember much of. I do remember liking it more than Empire of Silence. I don't know. Yeah, I probably liked it more than Carl's Doomsday Scenario. I don't remember plot. I don't remember. When I read the sequel, I'll need a refresh. I'll say that. I think the 3rd book that's going to come out is a sequel. The Daughter's War is a prequel, but I believe he's coming out with a 3rd sequel to The Black Tongue Thief. So when I read that, I'll need to watch a recap or something for the narrative of The Black Tongue Thief. But again, though I don't remember the plot, I do remember that I really enjoyed this reading experience. Speaking of reading experiences, The Housemaid, I think, was an okay reading experience. Thrillers have got to be pretty unique for me to say they're exceptional. I think I enjoyed it more than Mr. Mercedes. No, that's not true. Ooh, these are pretty interchangeable right here. I read this. I borrowed it from a friend, read this so that I could watch the movie. I have not seen the movie yet. I'm waiting for Shawnee to read it so that we can watch the movie together. It's a pretty popular book. You probably already know what it's about. Another one you probably know what it's about, Lonesome Dove. I'm going to put this bottom of S tier. I think this is the book that started me thinking about characters more than I was. All of these other books that I've read on this screen, the Matt that read those books was super focused on plot. I think that Larry McMurtry made me care for characters more than I've cared for characters in the past. Now, I'll be honest, I think this book is slightly overhyped online in the moment that it's been having on YouTube and Bookstagram and whatever. I think it's slightly overhyped. It's a good book. It is a great book. Slightly overhyped. You're following Gus and Call that are former Texas Rangers. They have this ranch in Lonesome Dove that they work on, and somebody comes up and says, hey, let's go to Montana. It hasn't been settled yet. Let's beat everyone else, and we can establish some roots and make some money. And they end up going on that adventure. But yeah, I loved this book because I felt like I was there with them. And I don't know specifically how Larry does that, but I cannot wait. I need more Gus and Call. I'll say that. That's where I'm going to say. That's where I'm going to leave it. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. This is one of those classics that I don't know why it's a classic. Surely I liked it more than Throne of Glass. Should Throne of Glass get moved down? I think it should. Okay. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the book that inspired Blade Runner. a movie that I have not seen. I struggle to see why this book is a classic. Again, one of my favorite booktubers, favorite authors. I don't know. I guess I was expecting more out of this. I think I was disappointed simply because of unmet expectations. Well, that plus it's pretty dated, and men, for some reason, specifically in science fiction, from my experience, men writing in that era, in science fiction and fantasy, men writing in that era, with few exceptions, really love to describe the female body, and I find it really annoying. I think that was a big hit against PKD here. I think the things that I enjoyed about it is the themes, such as classist imagery, or not imagery, caring about your image so much, and how you're perceived from your peers, and how that drives every decision that you make. I think that was a pretty relevant theme, and probably has just become more relevant over time. And that's really the only positive I could think of. The dialogue was choppy, scenes were clunky. There's a whole plot line in there that I just don't get at all. But I did enjoy the mystery of what is real, am I real, and how do you define what is real within this world. I thought that was cool. Next up, Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I think I'm going to put Iron Gold. So this is the beginning of the multi POV from Pierce Brown, which I enjoyed. Now, because of the time gap that I had from finishing Morningstar to reading Iron Gold, I relied on a friend of mine at work super heavily to fill in some gaps for me. Once those gaps were filled, this book came more to life for me. Without him, this book probably would be lower, but he was able to remind me of who people are and their backstories and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, this is book 4. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it could spoil things. Dark Age by Pierce Brown. I'm going to put above, you know what? That's going in S tier. There's a character here that I love to follow, and is probably the only like bookish crush that I have. I love this character so much. The first time that this book is the first time we get her POV, and I loved getting in her head because she's in a position of leadership, and seeing how her mind is working, knowing her past, and navigating where she's at now with the world around her being so bleak. I loved so much. I don't have it yet. I haven't picked it up, but I need to pick up Lightbringer, and I will probably read that as soon as Red God has an official release date, if I haven't read it by that point. Okay, the next one that I read is Why You Like It. This is another book and psychology. I'm sorry, music and psychology book. I'm going to put that right there after Empire of Silence, before Mr. Mercedes. This is another music psychology book, and this one goes more into the way that your ear and brain work together to process music. And I found that part of this book so fascinating. It really opened my eyes to how special it is that we have the gift of music. And if I talk more about this, I'll probably get to Head in the Clouds. The Wager by David Grann. I'm going to put this one, I think, above DCC, maybe even above Black Tongue Thief. Another nonfiction by David Grann. This is a story about a shipwreck on a ship called The Wager. Again, another story that it's crazy that it actually happened. And it's also crazy. This book opened my eyes to just what it takes to man a ship such as The Wager. Wild, huge crew. It's remarkable that it happened, for one, and two, how David Grann brings it to the page. I do still much prefer Killers of the Flower Moon. Great book though. Absolutely, you should read it. Next up, Fellowship of the Ring. This one is going to go above. It's not quite S tier. I think it's going to go here, above Project Hail Mary. Now, some people will say that it's blasphemous that this isn't top of the top, but like I said, The fact that this book is so, I mean, it's slow. It is, you're in the Shire for 200 pages before you leave the Shire. And then you're in Rivendell for another 200 pages, or it takes another 200 pages, 150 ish, to get out of Rivendell and start moving south. And that the first chunk just to get the ring moving was such a grind. But because I've seen the movie so many times and I know the story, this is my first time reading Lord of the Rings, by the way. I should have mentioned that. Because I know where the story's going, that is what was driving me to keep reading. Being a fan of found family tropes, the story of the Fellowship itself is another driving factor for me for this one. I am looking forward to continuing the series, but me and Shawnee are buddy reading, and we will continue eventually, not shortly, but eventually. Okay, next to last here, No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. This is another super short book that I think I was just trying to pad my stats for last month, and I had heard some pretty high critical acclaim for this one. This book is pretty sad. It's about a guy that is honestly just sick. It doesn't feel human. He lacks, I think he lacks the ability to empathize, just doesn't feel human in such a way that he decides that he doesn't want to live anymore. And there are multiple attempts, and it kind of ends with no conclusion or no concrete conclusion. The reader can come to their own conclusions, and it's kind of like universally agreed upon, the conclusion of the book. I think, let's see. My basis here is, would I reread it before anything else on this list? And I think I would reread it before. Maybe it goes up here. I think that's where it goes. That's higher than I thought I was going to be. Because when I finished it, I wasn't really sure what to feel. I don't know. I probably will come back to this one at some point and see if older Matt can pick up on things that younger Matt didn't. And I'm sure that some literary experts that have read this book are screaming at their phones or monitors or TVs right now that I'm not a real reader and I just don't get it. And maybe that's true. Maybe I just don't get it. But that, for me personally, was my experience with No Longer Human. The last book that I finished last week, was Lord of the Flies. I'm going to put, so this one I, air quotes, read in high school. In all reality, I used any sort of spark notes that I could, anything I could do to avoid reading the actual book. I wanted to reread this as an adult because of this book, more than many others, has stood the test of time. And I wanted to see if I could uncover why. And I don't know that I did. A lot of the literary things and allegories and representations and things of that nature, I feel like tend to go over my head. So the front half of this book, I was thinking, why the heck do people love this book? Why is this in every English class in America? What am I missing? And I think I'm still missing what I'm missing, but when it starts to pick up, it got really good and I couldn't stop reading. All that considered, I think I would put it right there. As I'm re-looking at this, I think I want to move some things around, but I'm not going to, because I think I've gone long enough. Lord of the Flies. Now, I don't know if this is what he was going for, but I thought it was a good commentary on human, the dark side of human nature. I feel like if I keep going, I'm just going to ramble. So I'm going to stop. These are all the books that I have read since the last video that we have uploaded. You can argue with me if you want, but these are my rankings. If you watch this whole thing, thanks a lot. We are going to continue reading. We are maybe going to continue uploading at an irregular schedule. All that to say, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell so that you're notified whenever we upload, because we don't have an upload schedule. If you want to watch our content, then you'll want to be notified when new stuff comes out. Thanks so much. See you in the next one.